You're not broken. You're misaligned. Let's get right into it. You've probably been told that if you just think positively, write it down a few times, maybe chant an affirmation in front of a mirror, your desires will magically show up. The money, the love, the freedom, the success. But days pass, weeks stretch out, and your life still looks the same. So you start questioning yourself, the process, maybe even the whole idea of manifestation. But here's something you haven't been told clearly enough. The problem might not be your mindset, your motivation, or your discipline. The problem is that you're still playing by the rules of a physical, surface-level reality, while your desires live in an entirely different framework. That's right, a framework based not in superstition or wishful thinking, but in the actual structure of how reality responds to energy, frequency, and consciousness. Today, we're not going to give you recycled tips. We're not going to sugarcoat why things haven't worked for you. We're going to take you straight into what modern physics, quantum theory, and multidimensional awareness are all pointing to, that reality itself is not fixed. It's fluid, and if you don't understand the operating system behind that fluidity, then no vision board in the world will save you. This isn't about believing harder. It's about knowing deeper. Over the course of this video, we're going to expose the most overlooked factors that are preventing your manifestations from becoming real. You'll learn why wanting can actually repel what you're asking for, how your energetic signature communicates more loudly than your words ever could, and why some people get results while others are left stuck on the sidelines. We're also going to challenge your entire understanding of time, memory, and even the role your own subconscious plays in either blocking or accelerating your outcomes. Because manifestation is not magic. It's physics. And once you get this, once it actually clicks, you'll never look at your reality the same way again. You'll stop begging the universe to deliver. You'll stop forcing alignment through willpower. And instead, you'll step into the role of conscious creator, not in theory but in real, repeatable ways. So stay sharp, because we're about to dissect the real reason your manifestations haven't been showing up. And it all starts with one question. Could your thoughts be trapped in the wrong dimension? Here's a truth that most manifestation teachings completely ignore. Your thoughts aren't just floating concepts. They're vibrational coordinates. Every thought you have places you somewhere, not physically, but dimensionally. Most people are generating their desires from a level of awareness that is bound by the third dimension, what we call the 3D. This is the realm of linear time, material cause and effect, and fixed outcomes. It's where you believe that it must lead to be, that success takes time, that effort always equals reward. This mindset assumes that reality is static, a blank screen you're trying to project your goals onto. But reality is not a passive screen. It's an intelligent, interactive field. And that field doesn't just respond to what you think. It responds to where you're thinking from. Let's break this down. In the 3D level of consciousness, thoughts are often rooted in survival. You want more money because you fear not having enough. You seek love because you feel incomplete. You chase success because you're trying to prove something. But that frequency, the one that fuels your desires, is not a match to the outcomes you say you want. It's a match to the lack behind them. This is what happens when you manifest from the wrong dimension. Now, contrast that with higher dimensional awareness, the 4D and 5D levels. At these levels, time isn't linear. Events are not cause and effect. Everything is simultaneous. Every possibility already exists. And your only job is to tune your frequency to the version of reality that matches your outcome, as if you're tuning a radio to a new station. Here's the kicker. That tuning isn't done with words or rituals. It's done with state, your internal state. When you think from the 3D, you operate as if you're separate from what you want. It's out there. You're over here. And you try to get from here to there using physical effort. But from the higher dimensions, you don't try to reach your goal. You become the version of you who already lives it. You stop asking for the thing and start thinking as the person who already has it. That shift in perspective is not just mental. It's vibrational. Let's say you're trying to manifest financial freedom. From a 3D mindset, you say things like, I want more money, or I need to make this happen. You look at your bank account. You feel lack. You try harder. But the quantum field isn't responding to your bank balance. It's responding to the emotion you're emitting. And that emotion is saying, I don't have. But from a multidimensional mindset, you realize that the version of you who is already free exists in the quantum field now. You align with that version by embodying the feelings of freedom, of abundance, of overflow, even before anything physically changes. And here's the beautiful paradox. Once you stop waiting for evidence, evidence starts to show up because you've changed dimensions. You're no longer vibrating from the timeline of seeking. You've stepped into the timeline of being. And that shift realigns every quantum possibility in your favor. That's why people who let go often see breakthroughs. They stopped pushing from the 3D and started radiating from the higher planes of awareness. But this isn't just about mindset. This is about energetic architecture. The quantum field contains infinite versions of you, each living out a different outcome, depending on what frequency they occupy. And the only thing separating you from the version of yourself who already has what you want is your identification with the wrong level of reality. You're not stuck because you're not trying hard enough. You're stuck because you're trying from the wrong plane of existence. So the question isn't, how do I get there? The real question is, why do I keep thinking from the place that guarantees I'll never arrive? Shift the dimension, and reality begins to rearrange itself. And next, we'll explore why even when your intentions are clear, the universe might not be responding the way you expect. Because the field doesn't react to language, it reacts to something far more powerful. Is the quantum field even listening to you? If words created reality, you'd already have everything you asked for. Let that sink in. You've spoken your affirmations. You've repeated your desires. Maybe you've even scripted them out every day, visualized them with intensity, and declared them to the universe like a command. But still silence. Nothing has changed. This leads many to question whether manifestation even works at all. But here's the truth that's often overlooked. The quantum field doesn't care about your words. It isn't paying attention to what you're saying. It's tuning into what you're broadcasting energetically. Every thought you think carries a frequency. Every emotion you feel generates a field. And that field, not your spoken requests, is what's communicating with the intelligence of reality. Let's be clear. The quantum field is not a mystical genie granting wishes. It's a responsive network of infinite potential, constantly matching frequencies. You don't get what you want. You get what you are in resonance with. So the real question becomes, what are you actually radiating? You may say, I am abundant. But if underneath that you feel fear about money, frustration about bills, or envy when you see others thriving, then the field is registering lack. Because your dominant emotional state is the true command. Here's the key. Emotions have more weight than words. Your nervous system broadcasts more clearly than your intellect. And if those signals are misaligned, the quantum field will always respond to the stronger frequency. That means you could be doing everything right on paper. But if your emotional baseline contradicts your intentions, manifestation stalls. Let's illustrate this. Suppose you declare, I attract healthy love. But when you're alone, your energy dips into self-doubt. Your thoughts spiral into memories of betrayal. And your internal dialogue whispers that love is rare or risky. Those signals are what the field picks up on, not your spoken affirmation. Your frequency is your order, and your emotions are the ink that writes it. This is why two people can say the exact same affirmation, yet get completely different results. One person says it with a nervous smile and hope rooted in doubt. The other says it while feeling grounded, whole, and already fulfilled. The second person isn't just speaking words, they're transmitting a state. And that state is magnetic. Here's the mistake many make. They try to manifest from their conscious mind, forgetting that 95% of their vibration is coming from the subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't speak English. It speaks in patterns. It speaks in emotion. So when you repeat an affirmation that your body doesn't believe, it can create resistance, even fatigue. That's because the subconscious sees the gap between what you're saying and what you're actually feeling. The solution isn't to force belief. The solution is to gently shift your emotional state until the feeling becomes real. Start small. Choose feelings you can genuinely access. Appreciation, safety, ease. You don't need to leap from fear to ecstasy. You just need to shift one frequency higher. Because once you're in resonance, the field starts listening not to what you want, but to what you're being. Now, here's a deeper layer. The quantum field is not just responding to your current frequency. It's also responding to your consistency. A strong signal sent once is weaker than a soft signal sent steadily. That means you can't just feel good for 10 minutes a day and expect transformation. You have to recalibrate your default state. Are you broadcasting gratitude on autopilot? Or worry, calm, or pressure? This matters more than anything you write in a journal. Because your baseline emotion is the constant transmission that reality responds to. Let's take this even further. Have you ever noticed that things show up when you forget to obsess about them? That's not coincidence. That's coherence. When you stop obsessing, you release resistance. Your energy relaxes. And in that relaxed state, your signal becomes clear. The quantum field doesn't need desperation. It needs clarity. But clarity isn't about being specific. Clarity is about being coherent. Coherence means your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are all speaking the same language. No contradictions, no static, just alignment. And in that space, your desires don't need to be chased. They are magnetized. Now, none of this is about bypassing real emotions. You're human. You're allowed to feel off. But if you want to manifest consistently, you must become aware of what your dominant signal is saying, not just what you intend to say. Your signal isn't what you wish for. It's what you embody. Let's wrap this with one powerful idea. Every single moment you are in a conversation with the field. But this isn't a verbal exchange. This is vibrational. So take inventory. Right now, what is your body saying to the quantum field? What are your emotions asking for on repeat? What belief is running silently behind your eyes and shaping your experience? You are always transmitting, and the field is always responding. Not in judgment, not in punishment, just in pure, unbiased reflection. It's not personal. It's physics. So if you want different results, don't speak louder. Feel deeper. Next, we'll explore a twist that surprises most people, the way desire, when fueled by lack, can actually repel what you're seeking, and how the very act of wanting may be the reason you're not receiving. Why wanting something can actually push it away. Every time you say, I want, the universe hears, I don't have. This is one of the most frustrating realizations for anyone trying to manifest. The stronger your craving, the further away your desire seems to move. The more you reach, the more it slips through your fingers. And it's not because you're cursed. It's not because you're doing anything wrong in the traditional sense. It's because the energy of wanting carries a signal of separation. Let's break this down. When you say, I want more money, the vibration that ripples out from your emotional state is not a match to abundance. It's a match to lack. When you think, I need love, the field doesn't register the romance you're picturing. It locks onto the emptiness you feel in its absence. Wanting, in its rawest form, is an acknowledgement that you're missing something. And in the quantum field, frequency is everything. It doesn't judge your desire. It doesn't punish your longing. It simply mirrors what you're emitting. So if your dominant vibration says, something is missing, the field responds with more evidence that something is missing. This is the paradox that traps people for years. They're told to get clear on what they want. So they do. But then they fixate. They stress. They cling. And that clinging is not magnetic. It's repulsive. Because here's what most don't realize. You don't attract what you want. You attract what your state confirms. Let's take this further. There's a difference between desire and desperation. One is expansive. The other is contracting. One opens energy. The other closes it. And the field only amplifies what is open and coherent. When you desire something from a place of inspiration, from wholeness, from curiosity and expansion, your energy is clean. There's no resistance. That kind of desire is creative. It's a high-frequency signal. But when you desire something because you feel incomplete without it, because you believe you're not enough until you get it, because your current situation feels unbearable without change, then your desire becomes contaminated with resistance. And resistance is the frequency of pushing, not receiving. This is why many people feel exhausted by their manifestation journey. They're constantly trying to get away from their current reality, rather than understanding that their current reality is a mirror. You don't escape the mirror by fighting the reflection. You shift the reflection by changing the energy behind it. Now here's a trap that many fall into. They try to fake abundance. They tell themselves they're not desperate. They recite mantras of having. But inside, they're still anxious. They're still worried. They're still trying to convince themselves that their lives aren't empty, when that's exactly what they feel. This creates a split signal. On the surface, you're saying one thing, but underneath, your emotional frequency tells a different story. And again, the field always matches the dominant frequency. So how do you break this cycle? It begins with understanding this truth. Desire is not wrong, but desire must be clean. Clean desire says, "This would be incredible and I'm already whole." Contaminated desire says, "I need this or I can't be okay." The difference is massive. One adds to your energy, the other drains it. This is where surrender enters. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as detachment. The moment you release your grip, not by giving up, but by stepping back into trust, your energy relaxes. And a relaxed frequency is infinitely more magnetic than a tense one. Let's look at how this actually plays out. Suppose you're manifesting a new career. If your thoughts are filled with pressure, deadlines, and desperation to escape your current job, the field picks up on all of that. Your signal is noisy, it's scattered, it's strained. Now imagine shifting that. Instead of obsessing, you choose to feel fulfilled where you are. You focus on embodying the qualities of the future version of you: confidence, creativity, freedom, even if your environment hasn't changed yet. That shift in energy tells the field, "I'm already aligned." And from that place, opportunities begin to appear. Not because you forced them, but because you stopped pushing them away. This is the heart of the matter. Manifestation is not about convincing the universe to give you something. It's about aligning with the frequency where what you want is already normal. And here's the next key insight. The more you need your manifestation to feel okay, the more you're signaling to the field that you are not okay. That vibration blocks. It delays. It distorts. But the moment you stop needing, you start receiving. This isn't just philosophy. This is energetics. You must train your nervous system to be at peace now. Not later. Not when the thing arrives. But right now. Because now is the only time the field responds to. Future peace doesn't manifest anything. Present alignment does. So here's your task. Replace attachment with preference. Say to yourself, "I would love for this to happen, but I am at peace either way." That's not weakness. That's alignment. And alignment is the tuning fork that unlocks everything. When you stop vibrating in the energy of trying. When you stop reinforcing the idea that something's missing. When you finally stop needing and start being. The field stops resisting you, because it was never resisting you in the first place. It was just reflecting you. Next, we'll explore a surprising source of resistance that most people overlook. How your past memories, even unconsciously, are shaping the future you think you're consciously creating. Are you manifesting from memory instead of vision? You're not creating a new future. You're recycling an old frequency. This may be the most important insight you hear today. Most people think they're manifesting something new, when in reality, they're just reliving an energetic echo of the past. You can't create a new reality with the same emotional coding that built the old one. But this is exactly what happens when memory becomes the foundation of your vibration. Even when you focus on what you want, your signal is still entangled with what has been. And the quantum field, which is entirely neutral, continues to match the patterns you're unconsciously radiating. Let's get specific. Suppose you've experienced rejection in the past. Not just once, but often enough that it created a pattern. Now, every time you set the intention to attract love, your conscious mind says, "I'm ready." But the subconscious is still holding onto the emotional memory of being hurt, abandoned, or let down. That emotion lives in your field, colors your expectations. It bleeds into your visualizations. And so, no matter how crystal clear your intentions are, the quantum field is still picking up on the frequency of rejection, because that's what's most active beneath the surface. This isn't just psychological. It's energetic. The field doesn't respond to your words or desires. It responds to the dominant signature in your vibrational archive. So when your body and mind are still referencing past events as your point of orientation, you create a loop, a feedback cycle. You believe you're building something new, but your signal is broadcasting the same old pattern. And this is why your environment, your relationships, even your income, seem stuck or strangely familiar. You're manifesting from memory. To break free, you must make a radical shift. Stop using the past as evidence of what's possible. Let that statement land. Stop using the past as evidence of what's possible. Because when you do, you stop feeding the frequency of repetition. Here's the truth. The quantum field holds every version of reality, not just the ones you've already experienced. But your access to those other versions is limited by your attachment to what you think is probable, logical, or realistic. And those assumptions come directly from memory. Now, this doesn't mean you need to erase the past. It means you must become aware of how it's shaping your present vibration, often without your consent. Every memory carries an emotional residue. When that residue becomes your emotional baseline, your manifestations stay trapped in the same timeline. To shift, you have to disrupt that pattern. Not by pretending it didn't happen, but by refusing to let it define what comes next. This begins with state. You must learn how to generate a state of being that is completely unrelated to your past. A state that comes from the future you're choosing. Ask yourself, how would I feel if the thing I wanted was already done? How would I walk? How would I speak? What decisions would I make if I knew it couldn't fail? Now act from that state, not once, but consistently, until your nervous system accepts it as familiar. This is not delusion. This is energetic reprogramming. Your body learns through repetition, and your frequency stabilizes when your new emotional pattern becomes more dominant than the old one. That's when you stop recycling memory and start transmitting vision. Let's address a common trap. Many people begin visualizing their desires, but still reference the past for permission. I've never made that much money before. Relationships always fall apart. I've never been chosen. And just like that, the memory reclaims authority. To change this, you must stop letting your past dictate your identity. Your identity is not a record of what happened. It's a decision. You are the architect of your energetic signature, but only if you stop dragging yesterday into today. Here's a powerful exercise. Start your day by asking, who am I becoming today? Not who have I been? Not what happened yesterday, but what version of me am I activating right now? That question unlocks the field of potential, because it shifts your orientation from reference to creation. Let's be clear, the past has momentum. If you don't consciously interrupt it, it continues by default. Not because it's powerful, but because it's familiar. And the familiar is seductive. Feels safe, even when it's painful. But manifestation requires you to prioritize the unfamiliar, the new emotional states, the new thought patterns, the new identity that doesn't come with history, but comes with vision. Your task is to teach your body what the future feels like before it arrives. Why? Because the quantum field only responds to who you are now, not what you hope to be and not who you were. If you can feel the freedom before the money shows up, if you can feel loved before the partner appears, if you can feel worthy before the achievement happens, you collapse time. That's not metaphysical poetry. That's a direct result of shifting out of memory and into coherence with your chosen future. Let's finish with this. Every time you tell your old story, you signal to the field that you're still living it. Every time you emotionally react as if the past is still relevant, you anchor that timeline even deeper. But the moment you generate a new emotional baseline, one that's sourced from your chosen reality, you access a version of life where the past has no power. Not because it didn't happen, but because you're no longer transmitting it. Next, we're going to explore something even more subtle, the invisible block that hides underneath positive thinking, and why you can't outthink your dominant vibration. The subconscious doesn't care what you want. It cares what you believe. Let's get straight to the core. You've set clear intentions. You've visualized the outcome. You've practiced thinking positively. But underneath all that, something still feels stuck. The needle isn't moving. Results aren't showing. And no matter how much you try to shift your thoughts, something keeps pulling you back into the same patterns. This is not a mindset issue. This is a coherence issue. At the heart of manifestation lies a simple principle. The universe responds not to your conscious thoughts, but to your overall energetic coherence. And coherence means one thing: your mind, your body, and your beliefs are in sync. But here's the catch. Your conscious mind might be saying abundance, while your subconscious is still carrying the energetic residue of scarcity. And in that battle, the subconscious wins. Every time. Why? Because the subconscious runs the show. It's responsible for over 90% of your behavior, reactions, and emotional patterns. It stores the core programs, many of which were formed during your earliest years, that now serve as the operating system behind your reality. If that programming says, "I'm not safe having money," or "love isn't stable," or "success equals stress," then it doesn't matter how many affirmations you repeat. Your field will emit the frequency of resistance, contradiction, and inner conflict. And the quantum field mirrors that contradiction right back. This is the invisible block, the one you can't outthink. Because this block doesn't live in your logic. It lives in your nervous system. It's that moment when you set a bold intention and your chest tightens just a little. It's the subtle anxiety that creeps in when things start going well. It's the part of you that procrastinates, self-sabotages, or second-guesses your own worth, even as you declare your dreams out loud. These aren't flaws. They're indicators. They reveal where your internal system is not in agreement. Let's be clear. This isn't about blaming yourself for having unconscious blocks. It's about recognizing that unless your inner state is congruent, your outer world cannot consistently reflect your desires. So what do? You must bring subconscious programs into conscious awareness. And more importantly, you must recondition them. Not by force, but through repetition, emotional resonance, and somatic alignment. Start by paying attention to your emotional triggers. Every time you feel contraction, fear, hesitation, there's a belief underneath it. And that belief is shaping your frequency. Write it down. Name it. Then ask, is this belief a reflection of my past or a match to my future? This one question will begin to unravel the false programs that have been running your life. Because here's the truth most people avoid. You can't create a new reality with an old self-image. If your self-image is still wrapped around trauma, rejection, failure, or powerlessness, then your field is signaling to the universe, "This is who I am." And the universe always agrees with your self-definition. Now let's talk about how to change that. Reprogramming the subconscious doesn't happen through willpower. It happens through state. You must train your body to feel safe holding the energy of the new identity. This is where coherence comes in. You achieve coherence when your thoughts are aligned with your emotions, and your emotions are supported by your beliefs. That's when you become energetically congruent. And congruence is what the quantum field responds to most powerfully. So instead of just thinking, "I am abundant," try this. Feel what abundance feels like in your body. Notice where it's blocked. Breathe into that space. Invite safety into it. And then anchor that feeling with repetition, not once but daily until it stabilizes. This is not mental gymnastics. This is how you physically condition your field to hold a new signal. You're not just shifting thoughts. You're shifting your baseline frequency. And once the subconscious accepts a new frequency as normal, reality starts to adjust, because there's no longer a contradiction. Let's take this even deeper. Most people unconsciously resist their manifestations because those desires conflict with an internal blueprint of identity. You want wealth, but your blueprint says, "I'm the underdog." You want love, but your blueprint says, "I'm too much." You want freedom, but your blueprint says, "I always have to hustle." Until that blueprint changes, your actions, habits, and outcomes will default to it. This is why change feels hard. Not because it's impossible, but because you're trying to install a new program on top of an old operating system. You have to update the system. Here's the formula. Awareness plus emotion plus repetition equals reprogramming. You become aware of the hidden belief. You bring in a new emotional state that contradicts the old one. And you repeat that state enough times that your subconscious adopts it as the new baseline. This process isn't instant, but it's powerful. Because when you finally reach subconscious coherence, your energy becomes undeniable. There's no more resistance, no more misalignment. You become a clear signal. And the clearer the signal, the faster the reflection. Let's end with this. The reason you haven't manifested yet isn't because your dream is too big. It's because your identity hasn't caught up to it. But when you stop fighting your subconscious and start upgrading it, the blocks dissolve. The noise clears, and the field responds not to who you were, but to who you've become. Next, we're going to break open the reality of your role in all this, why your identity as an observer may be collapsing the very outcomes you're trying to create. Are you creating or just observing reality? You're not waiting for reality to change. Reality is waiting for you to participate. Let's bring something into sharp focus. Your entire life, every experience, every opportunity, every so-called coincidence, is being filtered through a single, powerful principle that most people never realize they're using. The observer effect. Not as metaphor, not as a theory, but as a literal mechanism by which your consciousness interacts with the field of infinite possibility. This isn't speculation. This is what quantum physics has shown us, that the act of observing influences the outcome. In experiments, subatomic particles behave differently depending on whether or not they're being observed. Left unmeasured, they exist in a cloud of probabilities, waves of potential. But when measured, when focused on, when observed, they collapse into a defined state. What does this mean for you? It means that every moment you are observing your reality, consciously or unconsciously, you are influencing it. Not by changing external things, but by determining which possibilities collapse into form. Here's the critical distinction. Are you observing your current reality and reinforcing it? Or are you observing your chosen reality and creating alignment with that instead? Because most people, without realizing it, are locked into observation mode. They wake up and immediately tune in to what is. Their mind goes to what the bank account says, what the mirror shows, what the news reports, and in that moment they observe a reality they don't want. And by doing so, they keep collapsing it into experience. This is not theory. This is mechanics. The quantum field is a sea of probabilities. But the version that solidifies for you is directly linked to your focus. And your focus is shaped by your identity. So if you keep observing the same struggles, the same limits, the same lack, you're not just noticing them. You're energizing them. You're collapsing them into your personal reality. Again and again. Here's where things shift. You can learn to observe through vision, not reaction. You can train your mind to focus on outcomes not yet visible. You can reassign your attention from what is to what is becoming. This is how creation happens. Creation isn't forcing. Creation is selective attention. You choose what version of reality to energize, not with brute willpower, but with intentional awareness. But that awareness must become disciplined. Otherwise, you'll keep reacting to surface-level stimuli and calling it real life. Let's go deeper. The quantum field contains every timeline, including the one where your manifestation is already complete. It's not out there. It's right here, layered into the invisible. But you must attune to it with precise focus. Not wishful focus. Not desperate focus. Coherent focus. Focus that's unshaken by appearances. Focus that isn't swayed by temporary results. You don't observe to see if something's working. You observe to make it real. This is the true art of creating. You must stop reacting to the version of life you don't prefer. You must stop reinforcing the unwanted just because it's familiar. And instead, begin observing with intention. That means holding the vision even when your senses don't yet confirm it. It means feeling the outcome even when circumstances seem unchanged. It means training yourself to become emotionally fluent in the future, not loyal to the past. Let's talk about how to do this. Start by identifying your current observation habits. What do you focus on by default? Where does your attention go when you're tired, stressed, or distracted? Because where attention goes, energy flows. Then ask, is that attention reinforcing my current limitations? Or is it expanding the timeline where I'm thriving? Next, recalibrate. Begin using your imagination not as fantasy, but as selection. Picture the version of you who already has the outcome. Feel what they feel. Notice how they interpret their environment. And begin observing your life through their lens. That's not delusion. That's precision. Because you're not making something up. You're aligning with something that already exists, waiting to be activated by your observation. Remember, your observation isn't passive. It's participatory. You're not a spectator in this universe. You're a signal tower, a transmitter, a chooser. When you observe through the lens of lack, you collapse timelines of limitation. When you observe through the lens of expansion, you collapse timelines of possibility. So the most potent question you can ask each day is this: what am I observing into existence right now? That question rewires everything, because it makes you accountable not for fixing reality, but for selecting it. It shifts your posture from victim to creator, and it gives you back the steering wheel of your experience. But remember, it takes consistency. You can't observe your vision once and then panic for the rest of the day. You must train your field to stay loyal to your chosen frequency. When your observation becomes steady, the reflection becomes clear. When your vision holds, the field begins to fold. Not because you forced it, but because you chose it again and again until it responded. Next, we'll go even deeper into the energetic mechanics that make this process possible. And why your emotions, not your thoughts, may be the strongest signal you're sending. Are your emotions more powerful than your thoughts? Your mind sets the direction. Your emotions provide the fuel. This may disrupt everything you've been told about manifestation, but it needs to be said clearly. Your thoughts are not your strongest signal. You can think abundance. You can think clarity. You can think peace. But if your emotional body is vibrating anxiety, doubt, frustration, or fear, the signal the universe picks up is not your thought. It's your feeling. And that feeling becomes the magnetic blueprint that the quantum field reflects. Here's the science behind it. The heart emits an electromagnetic field that is 60 times stronger electrically and over 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. It's not a poetic metaphor. It's measurable. Your emotional state, governed largely by the rhythms of your heart, is literally generating a frequency that radiates outward and interacts with the field. So when your emotions contradict your intentions, there's interference in the signal. You may be mentally affirming, "I'm successful." But if you feel small, unworthy, or insecure, then that incoherence scrambles your broadcast. This is why you can't fake frequency. You can't override emotional reality with mental scripting. You must get your body and heart involved. Let's simplify the concept. Thoughts guide. Emotions attract. Thoughts are the coordinates. Emotions are the magnet. Without emotional resonance, your intentions don't take root. They float in the air like static, disconnected from your deeper energetic body. This is the gap that many people don't know they're stuck in. They're mentally aligned, but emotionally miscalibrated. They understand what they want, but they haven't practiced feeling it as true at the cellular level. And so, the field doesn't respond. Let's go even deeper. Every emotion you feel creates a corresponding biochemical signature in your body. Gratitude, joy, love, calm. These release chemical messengers that regulate the nervous system, reduce resistance, and synchronize your internal state. That internal harmony becomes coherence. And coherence is the language the field recognizes. But when your dominant emotions are fear-based, stress, worry, resentment, scarcity, they send the opposite signal. They create tension in the body. They disrupt your heart rhythm. They fragment your field. So even if you're doing all the external manifestation techniques, you're still broadcasting energetic noise. The field doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your emotional integrity. Let's get practical. You don't need to feel perfect all day long, but you do need to raise your baseline. Start by becoming emotionally aware. Ask yourself, what's the dominant feeling I carry throughout the day? What emotional energy do I default to when I'm not paying attention? That baseline emotion is your true broadcast. Once you identify it, you can begin to rewire it, not by force but by frequency practice. Here's how. Each morning, before engaging the world, generate the feeling of the life you're creating. Not just in your mind, in your heart, in your body. Feel the freedom, the security, the connection. Anchor that emotional state. Let it move through you. Let it become familiar. Then do it again tomorrow, and again the day after that. Repetition rewires familiarity. Familiarity becomes identity, and identity calibrates your field. Now here's the nuance most people miss. You don't wait for the physical evidence to give you permission to feel good. You reverse it. You feel good now because that feeling is the activator. You're not pretending. You're selecting. That shift alone changes the entire manifesting equation. Because now you're not trying to get something. You're becoming someone. Someone who already lives in the emotional environment of your desired reality. And the field begins to mirror that version of you. But here's the caution. When you go back to waiting for outer results to validate your inner state, you return to dependence. And dependence is the opposite of alignment. You must lead with emotion. You must become the source, not the seeker. That's the difference between those who manifest consistently and those who stay stuck. The ones who succeed aren't waiting to be uplifted. They've trained themselves to generate their own frequency, even when nothing around them looks different. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is feel it until it forms. Because in the quantum world, feeling is the signal, and the signal shapes the reflection. Let's close with this. Your thoughts may guide the map, but your emotions drive the vehicle. If your emotional energy isn't aligned with your desired reality, you're stalling at the intersection, even if your mind is ready to go. So learn to feel as if it's already done, and do it not as fantasy, but as frequency training. Because when your emotional field becomes a match to your chosen timeline, nothing can stay stuck. The field won't let it. It will reflect the upgraded you. Next, we'll look at how your current version of reality may not be wrong, just out of sync, and why the timeline you're tuned into may be incompatible with the outcome you want. Could your timeline be working against you? You're not attracting the wrong things. You're tuned into the wrong version of reality. Let's stretch the boundaries now. You've been told that there's one version of your life and you're trying to improve it. But that belief that there's a single, fixed timeline is one of the biggest obstacles to true manifestation. The truth is this: reality isn't linear. The quantum field holds multiple timelines simultaneously, all existing right now, side by side, like tracks in a multidimensional jukebox. Each timeline reflects a different version of you, living out different outcomes, based on different emotional, mental, and energetic frequencies. And here's the key: you are already tuned into one of those timelines. Not by accident, but by resonance. This is why it feels like certain patterns just keep repeating. Same types of relationships, same limitations, same financial ceiling. It's not because you're cursed. It's because your frequency is tuned into a timeline that includes those experiences. And no matter how much you want a different result, the field continues to reflect the version of you that matches your current signal. This is why change can feel impossible, because you're trying to create new outcomes from within the timeline where those outcomes aren't available. Here's the good news. You can change the channel. Tuning into a new timeline doesn't mean changing your whole life overnight. It means shifting into the energetic signature of a different version of you. And that shift recalibrates the probabilities the field offers in return. Let's make this real. Every timeline is a frequency stream, and every frequency stream is determined by your dominant state of being, your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations. If your current stream is built on struggle, urgency, fear, or lack, then that's the timeline your body is aligned with. And in that stream, even your best efforts will be filtered through that same energy. That's why things stall. That's why progress evaporates. That's why breakthroughs feel so far away. But the moment you tune your emotional and mental energy into a new stream, one that carries the codes of abundance, peace, or joy, the field begins presenting different opportunities, different synchronicities, different outcomes. You're not just shifting perception, you're shifting timelines. Now let's address a common question. How do I know what timeline I'm in? You don't need a mystical answer. Look at your environment. Look at how you feel when you wake up. Look at the recurring emotional patterns in your relationships, finances, and health. Your timeline isn't just something out there. It's the internal climate you're running on autopilot. And once you recognize that you have a choice, you can keep investing in that climate, feeding it with familiar reactions, old beliefs, and unconscious behaviors. Or you can switch timelines by becoming emotionally loyal to a new reality. One that matches your vision, not your history. Let's go deeper. Timeline shifting is not about escaping your current life. It's about reassigning your energy. When you embody a new level of being, consistently, you stabilize in a new vibrational lane. And everything that's incompatible with that frequency begins to fall away. The struggle dissolves. The resistance fades. The field starts offering a mirror that reflects your upgraded signal. This is not coincidence. It's coherence. You are not here to earn a better life. You are here to align with it. And alignment means tuning your energy to the version of reality where that life already exists. This also means releasing timelines that no longer serve you. That means cutting ties with emotional addictions to chaos. That means letting go of the story that says things have to be hard. That means walking away internally from identities that keep you small. Because every time you revisit the same emotional states, you re-enter the same timeline. You want new? Feel new. Think new. Act as the version of you who is already standing in that new world. That version exists. It's already encoded in the field. It's not distant, it's dormant, waiting for you to tune into it with enough consistency that it becomes your dominant experience. Let's get tactical. To shift timelines, start with small energetic choices. Speak like the version of you who already feels empowered. Respond to life like the version of you who isn't shaken by uncertainty. Choose gratitude not because you're pretending, but because it aligns you with the timeline of more. And when you catch yourself sliding back into the old identity, don't panic. Just redirect. Each moment is a fork in the road. Each reaction is a vote. Each thought is a frequency dial. You're not stuck. You're just tuned in. And tuning can be changed. So here's the final truth. You don't need to fix the timeline you're in. You need to step into a new one. Not someday. Now. Because the version of you who already has it all. They're not waiting. They're already living. And your alignment is the key that unlocks their door. Next, we'll take this even further by exposing the energetic comfort zones that keep pulling you back, and how to finally break free from the cycle that's been repeating itself. Are you stuck in the loop of familiar energies? You're not afraid of failure. You're addicted to familiarity. This might sting a little, but you need to hear it. You're not just repeating patterns by accident. You're repeating them because they feel safe even when they're uncomfortable, even when they hurt, even when they contradict everything you say you want. Why? Because the human system craves familiarity more than it craves success. Let that land. Your nervous system, your subconscious, your emotional wiring, all of it is designed to prioritize survival. And survival to your system means staying in the known. So when you try to upgrade your life, when you begin to shift timelines, when you introduce higher frequency emotions or bolder self-concepts, your internal system doesn't necessarily register that as exciting. It registers it as risky, and in response, it pulls you back. Not out of malice, out of habit. You return to familiar thoughts. You repeat old emotional loops. You unconsciously sabotage new opportunities. All because there's a hidden addiction running in the background, an addiction to the emotional chemistry of your past. Here's the raw truth. You might say you want peace. But if you've lived most of your life in survival mode, peace will feel foreign. You might crave love. But if your emotional baseline is shaped by abandonment, safety will feel suspicious. You might long for wealth. But if you've normalized struggle, ease will feel undeserved. That's the loop. Familiar energies run the show until you interrupt the cycle. But interruption doesn't happen through thought alone. It requires energetic intervention. Let's break that down. Energetic comfort zones are emotional states that your body has learned to live in. These states produce chemical responses, and over time, your body becomes conditioned to them. This means that even when they're destructive, stress, worry, guilt, scarcity, they feel right. They feel normal. So when you start generating new emotional states, gratitude, confidence, fulfillment, your system resists. Not because they're bad, but because they're new. This resistance shows up in subtle ways. You feel an unexplained heaviness after a breakthrough. You downplay good news or brush off compliments. You unconsciously create chaos after a period of calm. These are not personality flaws. They're feedback. They reveal where your comfort zone is misaligned with your desired timeline. And the only way to break free is through sustained exposure to new frequencies. You must train your body to feel safe in elevated emotional states. You must normalize ease, joy, and expansion, not as exceptions but as defaults. This is the rewiring process, and it's uncomfortable at first, because it confronts every pattern you've built to survive. But the discomfort isn't a signal to stop. It's a signal that your old identity is dissolving. Let's go deeper. When you're stuck in a familiar energy loop, your field becomes predictable. Your outcomes become repetitive, and your future becomes just a polished version of your past. To escape the loop, you must introduce energetic novelty, feelings, behaviors, and thoughts that your system isn't used to, but that match the future you're calling in. This doesn't mean faking it. It means rehearsing a new frequency until your nervous system learns to accept it. Start with 5 minutes a day. Feel gratitude before you have the thing. Feel proud before you achieve the goal. Feel loved before anyone else gives it to you. And do it again and again until the unfamiliar becomes familiar. That's how loops are broken. Not through willpower, through frequency repetition. And here's where it gets real. You cannot break a loop by resisting it. You break it by replacing it. That means replacing stress with breath, replacing scarcity with appreciation, replacing emotional triggers with presence. Every time you do that, your field updates. Every time you make a new choice, the loop loses power. Let's pause and take inventory. What emotional states feel normal to you, even if they're unpleasant? What situations keep repeating in your life that reinforce those emotions? What would it feel like to make peace with stability? With ease? With being seen, supported, and safe? The answers to those questions reveal where your comfort zone ends and where your expansion begins. Let's not sugarcoat it. Expansion isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like being suspended in a new emotional space with no manual. But that's not regression. That's recalibration. You're training your body to live in a new energetic climate. And when that climate stabilizes, your entire life begins to reflect the upgrade. This is how you break loops. This is how you escape vibrational redundancy. This is how you finally stop repeating what you're tired of experiencing. By choosing unfamiliar alignment over familiar dysfunction. By prioritizing coherence over comfort. By becoming the version of you who no longer fits the past. Next, we'll explore how to access the most fertile, receptive, and energetically open state of all. The one that most people ignore, yet holds the doorway to rapid reprogramming. Have you been ignoring the most manifestable state of all? If your mind is racing, your signal is scattered. If your brain is quiet, your field is clear. You've learned about thought. You've learned about emotion. You've seen how both shape your frequency. But there's another layer, a deeper layer, and it's often completely ignored in most manifestation teachings, even though it may be the single most powerful access point to reshaping your reality. That layer is state of consciousness. And within that, there is one particular state that opens the doors wide to your subconscious. One state that makes your intentions sink deeper, become magnetic, and resonate effortlessly through the quantum field. That state is Theta. Let's get clear on what that actually means. Your brain operates across different frequencies, electrical rhythms, depending on your level of consciousness. In waking life, most adults are in beta, the fast-moving, logical state of problem-solving, planning, thinking. Dip a little lower and you hit alpha, a relaxed state often accessed through meditation or daydreaming. Go even deeper and you enter theta, the slow, hypnotic rhythm most active between sleep and wake, or in deep meditation. This is the gateway. This is where your subconscious becomes highly suggestible. And most importantly, this is where your signal to the quantum field becomes clean, coherent, and uninterrupted by resistance. Why? Because in theta, your analytical mind, the part that doubts, questions, rejects, and analyzes, begins to recede. And your emotional and intuitive centers come online. In this space, you're no longer thinking your manifestation. You're experiencing it. You're no longer repeating affirmations that feel hollow. You're absorbing new beliefs as if they're already true. That absorption is everything. Let's break it down even further. In theta, the body becomes calm. The nervous system relaxes. Stress hormones drop. And the field around your heart expands. This makes you incredibly receptive, not just to new beliefs, but to creative ideas, subtle guidance, and intuitive downloads that your beta state can't access. Now here's the part most people miss. You may be doing all the right manifestation work, visualizing, affirming, journaling, but if you're doing it in beta, your efforts are bouncing off the surface. Your subconscious isn't open. Your frequency is noisy, and your field is uncoordinated. Theta changes that. In theta, you bypass the resistance. You bypass the old programs. You bypass the part of you that says, "This isn't possible." And instead, you install a new frequency directly. That's why people who meditate regularly, who visualize in theta, who use breathwork or sound to shift brain states, often report massive shifts without grinding effort. It's not because they're working harder. It's because they're accessing the back door of the system. Let's get tactical. You don't need to be a monk or master meditator to access theta. You naturally pass through it twice a day, right before sleep and right after waking. That's your window. That's when your subconscious is open. That's when your brain is in the perfect frequency range. And that's when you should be planting the seeds of your new identity. Use those windows. As you fall asleep, don't just scroll your phone or rehash the day. Use that moment to feel into the version of you that already lives the life you're calling in. Not just visualize it. Live it internally. Feel the outcome. Hear the conversations. Sense the environment. And breathe as if it's already yours. And again, as you wake up, don't immediately plug back into the noise. Hold that liminal space and anchor your signal. This is not wasted time. This is where manifestation speeds up. Because when your subconscious accepts something as real, your frequency becomes a match. And the field doesn't delay coherence. It mirrors it. Here's a bonus method: brainwave entrainment. Tools like binaural beats for 132 Hz tones or guided theta meditations can gently shift your brain into this deeper state. Used consistently, they help retrain your system to stay in alignment longer, to hold new frequencies more easily, and to shift patterns with less resistance. But remember, it's not just about dropping into theta. It's about what you do with that space. Don't bring your worries with you. Don't repeat your old stories. Use the theta state to install what actually matches your future. Because that's the key. You're not just relaxing. You're programming. You're transmitting. You're creating. And it's happening below the surface where reality is actually shaped. Let's wrap this up. Theta isn't magic. It's biology. It's physics. And it's the doorway to the version of you who doesn't struggle to manifest, because they've trained their subconscious to align without resistance. When you ignore this state, you're working uphill. When you harness it, you stop pushing and start allowing. Next, we're going to uncover a commonly misunderstood concept: intention. Why it's not enough on its own, and the one vital ingredient that makes it actually count in the field. Why intention alone isn't enough, the missing ingredient most skip. The universe doesn't move for clarity. It moves for consistency. Let's be brutally honest. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Set your intention, and maybe you've done just that. You've written it down. You've said it out loud. You've meditated on it. You've gotten clear on what you want. And yet, nothing. No visible movement. No breakthrough. No shift in reality. That's not because your intention was wrong. It's because intention by itself is not the mechanism that moves the quantum field. Clarity is essential, but it's only step one. What actually activates change is something far more grounded. Something most people overlook because it doesn't feel glamorous or mystical. That missing piece is action, not as hustle, not as desperation, but as energetic confirmation. Action is what tells the quantum field, I'm serious, I'm aligned, I'm ready. It's the embodiment of your frequency in motion. Let's unpack this. The field doesn't respond to hope. It responds to coherence. And coherence means your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all saying the same thing. You say you want abundance. But do you spend like someone who trusts they're supported? You say you want love. But do you treat yourself with the care and presence that match the relationship you seek? You say you're ready to be seen. But do you still hide when opportunities arise? This is where most people get stuck. They're clear on what they want, but their actions still broadcast hesitation, fear, or contradiction. And the field reflects that back, not as punishment, but as precision. Because action is evidence of alignment. Let's get practical. The right action doesn't always mean doing more. It means doing differently, from a new frequency, from a new identity. One aligned action, taken from a state of energetic wholeness, carries more weight than 100 desperate moves. You don't act to force an outcome. You act to stabilize your signal. Each time you show up from your future self's energy, each time you behave like it's already real, each time you take the next step without needing proof first, you confirm to the field, this is my baseline now, and the field responds, let's go deeper. There's a difference between passive intention and active alignment. Passive intention says, this is what I want. Active alignment says, this is what I'm living. The gap between those two determines how fast or slow your manifestations arrive. If you've been stuck in intention with no movement, it's time to ask, what would the version of me who already has this be doing today? And then go do it, even in small ways, because every action becomes a vote for that version of reality. Every behavior reinforces the frequency you've chosen. Here's where it gets powerful. Once your actions match your intention, the field no longer sees two different signals. It doesn't see one part of you asking, while another part stays in old patterns. It sees integrity, and integrity is magnetic. That's when synchronicity speeds up. That's when people show up. That's when opportunities align. Not because you forced it, because you finally matched it. Now let's be clear. You don't need to take massive, life-altering leaps to prove you're ready. Sometimes the most powerful action is subtle. Saying no to an old habit. Speaking a truth you've withheld. Organizing your space to reflect your next chapter. Investing in yourself in ways your past self never dared. These aren't just tasks. They're energetic signals. They say to the field, I'm not waiting. I'm participating. That's the difference. When you treat action as an active frequency, not force, it becomes natural. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying readiness. And that readiness attracts its reflection. Let's bring this home. If you've been stuck in vision with no movement, if your manifestations feel like static ideas with no real-world traction, it's because your intentions haven't yet landed in the physical. And manifestation only becomes real when it enters form. So take one action today, not from urgency, but from alignment. Show the field that your choice is no longer just a thought. It's a vibration in motion. That motion sends a message. I'm not hoping for the future. I'm living in it. Next, we'll bring everything together by exploring the final trigger that changes everything: belief. Why reality is not waiting to deliver proof, but waiting for you to finally stop needing it. What if reality is waiting for you to believe first? Reality doesn't show up to convince you. It shows up to match you. Let's cut through all the noise. The biggest reason most people never manifest what they say they want isn't because they didn't visualize hard enough. It's not because their vibration wasn't perfect every day. It's not because the universe didn't hear them. It's because they never fully believed it was theirs to begin with. Not at the surface level, at the core. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The quantum field doesn't respond to doubt. It doesn't respond to hesitation. It doesn't respond to, "I'll believe it when I see it," because that mindset is rooted in a reversed equation. You've been trained to seek evidence before you believe something. But in the realm of quantum creation, it works the other way around. You believe first and then reality shifts. Belief isn't about wishing. Belief is about becoming. It's not hoping that something is possible. It's knowing in your body, in your field, that it's already done. And that knowing has nothing to do with physical evidence. This is where most people give up. They wait for signs. They wait for proof. They wait for reality to show them something different before they shift their internal state. But the field doesn't operate on reaction. It operates on reflection. You must become the match before the match appears. You must embody certainty in the absence of feedback. And that certainty becomes the magnet. Let's talk about what real belief looks like. Real belief doesn't waver based on circumstances. It doesn't shrink when things don't move quickly. It doesn't bend under pressure. Real belief is stable. It's consistent. It's a decision, not a feeling. And that decision calibrates your signal in a way that the quantum field can't ignore. Let's be clear. Belief isn't blind. It's not denial. It's not pretending that everything is perfect. Belief is choosing to hold your frequency regardless of what's missing, what's delayed, or what hasn't yet arrived. Because when your energy becomes immovable, the mirror of reality has no choice but to reflect that. Here's the core principle. Your external life is a reflection of your internal conviction. If you don't believe you're worthy, no amount of effort will override that vibration. If you don't believe it's available, your mind will dismiss the evidence even when it arrives. If you don't believe it's happening now, you'll constantly act as if it's still far away. And all of those behaviors confirm the delay. So the real shift happens when you stop needing belief to be reinforced. And instead, you reinforce it yourself. This is where your power lies. You decide what's real, and the field responds accordingly. Here's how you know your belief is real. You no longer chase. You no longer look for signs. You no longer argue with what is. Instead, you radiate presence. You respond from vision. You hold your frequency like it's already done. And the moment you stop needing results to feel certainty, the results begin to appear. Because the field isn't trying to test your faith. It's trying to reflect your identity. And identity isn't what you say you are. It's what your energy proves you believe. So ask yourself right now, what version of reality am I saying I believe in? Not with words, but with energy. Because that belief is what your life is mirroring back. Every moment, every day. And here's the most powerful shift of all. You don't need to wait until something shows up to feel worthy of it. You don't need to wait until the money is there to feel secure. You don't need to wait until someone loves you to feel lovable. That's the trap. That's the delay. But the moment you feel it now, the moment you embody it now, the field says, you're ready, and reality begins to move. So stop begging the universe. Stop questioning your timeline. Stop deferring your identity to circumstances. Choose the belief that aligns with your vision. Live it, breathe it, become it, and let the quantum field confirm what you've already decided. Now, to close everything we've explored, you've learned that thoughts alone aren't enough. That emotion is the stronger signal. That your state matters more than your words. That timelines, comfort zones, and subconscious programs are all shaping what shows up. And that belief, real belief, is the final key to collapsing potential into experience. So the invitation is simple. Stop treating manifestation as a tool. Start treating it as a frequency you live from. And from that place, you're no longer trying to create your reality. You're remembering the version that's already aligned with who you really are. Let the field meet you there.